Test, 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 test. Hey guys, feel free to ask any questions you guys might have. Hello. Hey guys, I see your chats. Hello, Oswaldo. Yeah, ask any questions. Ask any questions you guys might have. Yo, godlike star. What's one technique or drill you wish you mastered earlier in your swimming journey that made a big difference in your performance? In my own swimming journey, it's not really a I've been really liking the short dog, long dog stuff that we've been doing with our guys. I didn't really pick that up until later in my career, but basically short dog, long dog is working on the high elbow catch at the top. So like short dog, you would just go just like this. You're just sculling like this and just working on getting your elbows up as high as possible, and then thinking about getting this part of your elbow pointed to the sky. And kind of working on that. So short dog, we go here, and then long dog, we're going underwater recovery all the way through like this. That one really helped me with my catch. Um, I really wished I had worked on that. Another thing I really wished I did, especially my 200 freestyle, is breathe off my breakout. So like all of my coaches told me, don't breathe off your breakout, don't breathe off your breakout. And something I realized is that really drained my energy in terms of how much I can sprint. And so I wished I would have breathed on my first stroke, because I started doing that later in my career and I would swim faster. And ultimately, the goal is to swim fast, right? And so, like, you don't have to follow some dogma that some coach told you because they said don't breathe off the first stroke. But I actually think getting that oxygen was more important for me to manage my energy than actually swimming faster because I didn't breathe off my first stroke. I can swim like Cam McAvoy with your training method. I mean, no, you have to. I can't guarantee that you will go 21.3 or 21.0 just because you do our methodologies. You obviously have to have the prerequisites of the genetics and the mindset and all that. And it really depends on where you're starting. Like if you're starting at a 42-second 50 freestyle, it's probably going to be very hard. Now, if your starting point is 21.7, possible. Thanks for the live. Thank you, Dang Diaz. What would I recommend to a student athlete who can't afford? What would I recommend to a student athlete who can't afford for equipment or even strength training? You can still get a lot of stuff done using bodyweight training. And one of the hard things about body training that we learned during COVID when gyms were closed is adding enough load, external load. So a lot of things that we did was working mechanically disadvantageous positions. So things like long lever hip hinges, L sits, advanced gymnastics movements. Those are all difficult and only require body weight. So we did a lot of that. The other thing you can do is manipulate the tempo. So like slowing down the eccentric phase, you can actually get a stimulus in, without that much external load. So that helps. Levels do you think swimmers should have to say like, no, I am fully. Yeah, I actually have a whole document on, what I think, the minimum strength levels athletes should have in order to, that's kind of like sufficient enough. It depends on the movement. So like, for example, like the back squat, I always said anywhere from like 1.0 to like 1.25 times body weight seems to be enough if you're not a breaststroker. If you are a breaststroker, it seems to be a little bit more. Like for the pull-up ratio, it's anywhere from like for males, it's like 1.5 to 1.8 seems to be enough. For females, it seems to be like 1.3 to 1.5. That's like pretty strong. And then you start focusing on other things. And we've produced a ton of content about the bucket system, but basically like that's like the first level of the bucket. So for example, for the males, if it's 1.5 times body weight for the pull up, like that's the first level of the bucket. And then once the water is full for all the buckets, then there's like nothing to work on, right? But then you can start increasing the size of each bucket. And so like say you hit a 1.8 times body weight pull-up ratio, and you can jump super high, and you have crazy ab strength, and you have a 500-pound deadlift and all that. At that point, then you can start trying to go up again. But you have to do so strategically, because going from a 1.8 times body weight pull up to 1.9 is going to require a ton of biological resources in order to recover, to get to that level. So you have to do it strategically. Thoughts on body composition and body fat percent levels / nutrition? Yes, I think that all athletes have a fighting weight. I think athletes have a weight that they race great at, and it's different for everybody. So I can't recommend, what it is. Probably sub 10% body fat is a good place to be. But I always recommend athletes to find a body weight that works well for them. How do you mentally prepare for a big meet like nationals or LA? It can be more than one, your choice. Um, Mental preparation. So I always like to say like confidence doesn't just come randomly. You don't like just dream up confidence. Confidence comes from stacking evidence of historical, or sorry, confidence comes from stacking evidence of things you've accomplished in the past. So basically, like, you can't just like if you're going to LA 2028, you want to win a gold medal, you're probably going to have to go 21-0, 21-1, right? Like you can't just go there and it's your first time being in that situation. You had to have had that kind of experience before multiple times. So like you have to build up to it. So whether it's going to Pan Pacs or Pan American Games or World Championships, like you have to do micro steps to get to be confident to perform at that level. You can't just like show up and just mentally it's the same as physical preparation. You have to prepare your mindset by building up to that. Do I have a four-day dryland workout? I want to share with us? We have some templates. Shoot us an email, and we're actually working on developing some pre-written programs for everyone that we can just kind of put out there and people can purchase. We're working on that. Stay tuned. Ko Kobayashi, kintore wa. Sorry, my kanji reading is not so great, but kintore wa 週に何回していますか? So that for our non-Japanese folks, Ko Kobayashi is asking how many times do we train in the weight room? Our team lifts 3 times a week. So we lift on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. 火、木、土、筋トレしています. If I could coach my younger self, what's the first piece of advice I'd give? It's a great question. Yo godlike star is asking godlike questions. For me personally, I wish I would have competed more. Like not just show up to meets, but like race the person next to me. I was so obsessed with my own performance and how I was feeling and how I was executing the race. Like, am I hitting my turns? Are my elbows up? Blah blah blah. That I didn't focus enough on racing the person next to me. I actually like didn't even care like what place I got ever. I just wanted to drop time. But I wish I had raced people a little bit more. Which exercises should I do for mobility for breaststroke to become faster? So it depends. You don't want to stretch muscles that you don't need stretching, but specifically for breaststroke, you need a lot of hip internal rotation. You don't need a whole lot of hip internal rotation, but it certainly helps. So, for example, Adam Peaty, the one of the examples I always give is like Adam Peaty versus Michael Andrew. Michael Andrew has way more hip internal rotation than Adam Peaty does in his breaststroke kick. Like Peaty is just kind of like here and here, and then Michael Andrew really swings out, and so he uses a lot more hip internal rotation. But improving hip internal rotation can help. It is more difficult to improve hip internal rotation than say humeral external rotation, just because sometimes the shape of how your femur and acetabulum can affect your internal rotation mobility. So it could be a bony blockage, meaning there might not be much that you can do. And I'm guessing that's what Adam Peaty is. That's why he doesn't do a whole lot of hip internal rotation when he does breaststroke. But yeah, improving hip internal rotation control could help if you're speaking about mobility. And then all the classic shoulder flexion, humeral external rotation for improved streamline can also help too. Are your 3 weekly workouts full body? Yeah, all of our training programs for all of our athletes are full body. The reason for that is if you do say like chest on one day, then basically you only hit your chest 1 day a week, because then you would have to hit something else on the other days, and it's a lot to recover from. So we go full body, all three workouts. Any other questions? Favorite exercise to train, develop shoulder stability. We like to train a lot of humeral external rotation. So swimming is an internal rotation sport, meaning a lot of the propulsion comes from internally rotating the humerus. And so what we find is that external rotation strength seems to be much weaker than internal rotation strength, and we've tested this too, using dynamometers, and it basically, you start to lose a lot of shoulder flexion, external rotation mobility, and so we do a ton of external rotation. We'll do it at 0 degrees abduction, 90 degrees of abduction. We'll do it in the scapular plane. We'll do it in the sagittal plane. We'll do it overhead. Basically, we try to hit external rotation in as many different positions as possible. How do we track fatigue in athletes? Do you consider HRV a valuable and accurate measure? I track it personally for myself because I have an Aura ring, and we'll use that, but not all of our athletes have one. But with our pro team, we do track their grip strength. Every practice they come in, I'm sure you've seen some content from some of our guys, but we have a hand grip dynamometer, and I kind of memorize like everyone's averages. So like I kind of know like if Calvin comes in and he hits like 116, I'm like, oh, okay, Calvin's feeling it a little bit. But yeah, we'll use grip strength. Is there a particular snack that you like to eat before a big race, and why? I personally like bananas. They're easy to digest, quick carbs. They don't make you feel heavy. My like routine post prelims, pre finals meal is poke, just because I really like it and it sits well in my stomach. But that's kind of what I enjoy, and I always tell athletes to test and see how you feel. Keep a food log. How often do you incorporate medicine ball throws into your programs, and what are some good exercises to do with them? We pretty much like a month out from a big competition, like there's going to be some kind of medicine ball throw probably. If you check our library page on YouTube, go to ASP Library, Aquatic Sports Performance Library, and go to YouTube, type Aquatic Sports Performance Library MB, and you'll see a ton. How does oblique muscles help you in swimming? So basically, your core just helps connect your limbs. So like think of shooting a cannon out of a canoe. That if you shoot a cannon out of a canoe, that canoe is going to go flying. Opposed to if you shoot a cannon off ground, it's going to be nice and sturdy. So if your core is sturdy, your arms and legs have something sturdy to push and pull from. It also helps with the rotational aspect. So like say, you catch, right? Core's tight. It actually helps generate the torque from your core. How do you also psychologically approach swimming and being back to high intensity while being after shoulder dislocation episode? I'm guessing you're asking like, how do you avoid like the fear of redislocating it? I'm guessing that's what you're asking. Basically the same thing as I was explaining earlier. You have to build evidence of small wins. So like I would just start the athlete like with very small wins that we for sure know that they can achieve, and then slowly, progressively make the difficulty harder and harder, and that you can build, one, the shoulder stability, but two, also psychologically you can build it, because like, oh, before I couldn't do 5 push-ups or 5 incline push-ups. Now I can do it. So that kind of helps build your confidence. How do I be relaxed before the dive in a 50 free? Like when you're on the blocks, or like specifically on the blocks or behind the blocks? If you're talking about like behind the blocks, you can try breathing exercises. So like there's all these fancy terms for all these different breathing exercises and stuff, but the main principle that you need to understand is that just have your exhales be longer than your inhales, and that'll slow your heart rate. And if you go the opposite, where your inhales are longer than your exhales, that kind of helps bring you up and elevates your heart rate. So you can kind of play with that. What are some good pre-swimming dryland exercises to warm up? If you check the last vlog that we just posted with Sid and I, Sid goes over some of them. There's also another vlog where I was racing at sectionals. We kind of talk about pre-race shoulder exercises. I forget what that vlog was called. It was racing in sectionals in Oceanside. You can check that one out. There's some good pre-swimming dryland exercises on there too. Should I stretch before my race? Depends on if you need it or not. If you're a super hypermobile individual, you probably don't need it. If you're super tight, you struggle to get into a streamline, working on your lat mobility and T-spine extension, rotation mobility can help you get into an easier streamline for sure. Ryan, when I'm behind and on the block. So when you're behind and you're trying to stay calm, I would recommend, exhaling more than you inhale, or longer exhale than you inhale. On the blocks, you actually don't want to be moving too much because then you can get DQ'd. But what some of our athletes do is they'll actually, for a 50 free, right when they say take your mark, they'll take one last huge breath so they get as much air in their lungs as possible. And then when they jump in, that's when they, their lungs are full of air and they're actually more buoyant. How did I start coaching? Was it easy to get confidence in the field? No, not at all. It's very hard, but you just work hard every day and then you slowly build your confidence. Is stretching really important, like overall? Yes. We always there's a term, strength and conditioning, but we actually don't do any conditioning. So I try to change and coin the term strength and mobility training. And I think mobility training is just as important as the strength, if not more important for certain individuals, because there are hypermobile individuals who don't need a lot of stretching. Do I use any AI besides ChatGPT? Does our business? Yeah, for some of the vlogs and stuff, to create images, we'll use some kind of AI. Smelling salts. I have used it before 50 free. I don't know if it worked out very well, but yeah, caffeine is proven in the research to help with performance, even though it might affect sleep. That one you just have to make your own decision. So like if you're getting ready for Saturday night finals, but you still have to race Sunday morning, then maybe be intelligent about caffeine timing. But like if it's Saturday prelims, maybe you can take it, right? So just kind of know what's coming up next. Like if it's Sunday finals and you don't race on Monday, have at it, Ryan Dan, is it better to slap and yourself before the dive, or is it better to be calm and relaxed? That one depends on you. Look up the Yerkes Dodson. I believe let me look it up really quick. Yeah, Yerkes Dodson law. Basically, it's a law that says everyone has a different state of arousal. Some people need a high state of arousal before they compete. Some people need a low state of arousal, and it differs for everyone. And you have to find out what works best for you. And it's not I need to be hyped up or I need to be calm. It's not black and white. It's like, how hyped up do I need to be, or how calm do I need to be? So it's a range, and you need to figure out what range you need to be on. So if this is like super hype and this is super chill, I figured out that I'm about right here. I need to be right here. For some of my other athletes, they need to be here. For some of my athletes, they need to be here. So it depends on what you need, and you have to understand your own personality because it's very personality based. What is my pre-race routine before racing? Not much. Do a dryland, mini dryland warm up, put the suit on, chill, and then race. Yeah, it's nothing. It's nothing crazy for me. When you are on a plateau, how did you break it? You have to find your rate limiter. So you have to figure out what is the highest leverage activity that I can do currently to break my plateau. So if it's like, we actually made an Instagram post about this. There's scroll down on our Instagram. It's like 8 things you can do to smash your plateau. And it's like, you have to rate your own sleep, rate your strength training, rate your mobility training, rate your stress levels or something like that. Basically figure out all these things, rank it on a scale of 1 to 10, and then figure out which one is like a 5, and then just work on those things for like the next 3 months, and it'll help you break your plateau. Marina posted about trying to dive out further and try not to be the first one in the water off the start. How are you thinking about that as a coach, assuming a swimmer has a generally good start? Oh, good question. Yeah, Marie, that's a great question. I'm actually a little bit conflicted on that myself right now. I'm still learning about that one myself. In the case of Marina, we are trying to get her to dive out a little bit further. I have some other athletes where we're actually trying to bring their dive in. So I think that one's a little bit hard to give like a definite answer. What I suggest is time do time time your 15-meter times or 10-meter times, and then try both approaches and then see which one's faster. Obviously, you need a pretty large sample size, and you need to, account for confounders like fatigue. But if you can limit those and test those out, you can kind of figure out which one works best for you. What snacks should I eat at a swim meet? The ones that work best for you. So, like for some people, bread doesn't work well. For some people, it does work well. I always tell people keep a food log, see what works well for you, um, and then use those foods. Like for me, bananas work pretty well. What are your thoughts on the World Championships in Singapore? Well, I'm going to be there, so I'm very excited. Yes, my God. Oh, I'm sorry about your partial dislocation. First and foremost, I would say get with a physical therapist. Make sure you're doing your physical therapy. Um, bring your confidence up by doing the rehab first and doing some challenging movements and test it on land first. And then just start slow and then slowly build your confidence from there. My 9-year-old daughter missed the state by 2 seconds. Would resistance training be good for her to develop her speed? It depends on how you're defining resistance training. If you mean resistance training by like benching, I probably wouldn't recommend that for a 9-year-old daughter. I would say missed the state by 2 seconds. Also, kind of depends on the event. But it certainly can help, but at that age, I would really just focus on technique development because that has the greatest long-term benefit. So I would focus more on technique and how she's doing in the water than actual resistance training. How can I keep my performance at its best during long meets? By making sure you're warming down after every single event. Fueling well, sleeping well as much as you can, and then one of the overlooked factors: try to stay off your phone as much as you can. Because I know at swim meets, a lot of people, there's a lot of downtime, so you kind of chill on your phone. But dopamine, when you're on your phone, you slowly start to kind of use up your dopamine. So, and you need dopamine to swim fast. So stay off your phone. Try to chill as much as you can. Tips for hunter fly depends on how you currently swim it. I don't really know, so it's kind of hard to give advice on that. Best tips for turning a 50 free. Again, I'd have to know what yours currently looks like to be able to give any advice on that. Do you do any hypertrophy phase at the beginning of the macro cycle? Is it really necessary to do it? Yeah, we'll do some. We'll do some. Especially for like upper back and the rotator cuff area regions. And it depends on the individual. If they're kind of on the smaller side, we might do it a little bit. If the athlete's like super jacked and massive and they don't need to do one, we won't. But I kind of think of the hypertrophy phase more as like not to like get jacked, but more from a injury risk reduction standpoint, because muscle is protective, and so I'll kind of view it from that lens. So like upper back, rhomboids, infraspinatus, deltoids, like I'll think about hypertrophying those muscles for sure. In any 50 event, is a 50 of any stroke the most needed to pay attention to minor details and technique? I would say in any event, you have to work on minor details and technique from the 50 all the way to the 10K. You want to sub 107.4 in breaststroke to get Canadian junior trials to get shot at next year's world championships. Any tips? 107, I'm guessing that's long course. It really depends on what your current rate limiters are. Like if you're not a great kicker, I'd work on that. If you're a great puller, or sorry, if you're not a great with your arms, I'd work on that. Just figure out what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and then kind of try to bring up the weakness. What nationality am I? I'm half Japanese, half Taiwanese. Do you think McAvoy can break 20.91? I think he can, but you have to have the perfect race. Yeah, I don't think it's impossible. How did Julian Smith go so fast? I don't know. Am I recruiting pros? Who can I reach out to? No, we're not recruiting anyone actually. We're actually trying to keep this team pretty small, so we can really focus and make sure they're getting the attention that they need. Dryland right before or right after swim practice? We go right after swim practice because swim practice is the most important thing. That's the thing that really moves the needle forward, and we want our athletes to be fresh for that. So we'll do it before. We'll swim practice before. Yeah. Yeah, if you guys have other questions, check out aquaticsp.com. We answer questions on there too. So if you have like burning questions that need a little bit more insight, check out aquaticsp.com. ASP Swim, that's where we are posting the daily workouts our pros are doing. So I literally just copy and paste it, and you can see like what our athletes are doing. And I train the athletes for free. So this is kind of how, because professional swimming, a lot of people complain about swimming, like, oh, athletes should make more money. Athletes should make more money. But one of the couple business mantras that I live by is that money flows to value and that the market decides what's valuable. And swimming, unfortunately, is just not that valuable. Like people aren't willing to pay for it. And so, yeah, like our athletes, like they have to get jobs. Like they're still working full-time jobs. Like Calvin works a full-time job and comes to swim practice. And so like, it doesn't make sense for me to charge him to train when we're trying to make the Olympics because I want him to quit his job. So I actually train all the pros for free, our pros for free. But with that being said, I also dedicate like 20, 30 hours to that. And I also need to make a living. So like, this is one of the ways we're, one, funding the team, and then two, our coaches kind of get, that's how we make a living. And so if you want to check it out, it's ASP Swim, aquaticsp.com. It's all on there. You can see our pros, what, behind the scenes content, Q&A, and the daily workout that they do. And there's also a video library of all the drills that they do. What's one habit that helped you stay consistent in your swimming journey? It's not really a habit, but it's just a love for the sport. I didn't have to like force myself to be consistent because I loved it so much. I think that's very important. Do you have any exercise recommendations for the fly kick? Train your core, especially in the sagittal plane. Being able to do a full standing ab wheel, like developing progressions to develop a full standing ab wheel and a front lever are great options. 7 hours of sleep enough? Probably depends. I've read studies that everyone has a different, minimum hours of sleep. And so if you feel like it's good enough, it's probably good enough. What are some of your long-term and short-term goals? Well, our vision is to create the greatest high-performance training facility for aquatic athletes in the world. And so that's my big long-term goal. Short-term goals, I have some pretty big ones in a couple weeks at World Championships. Keep up the great work. Love the channel and the content. Good luck with the training leading up to the relay world record attempt. Thank you. Thank you, Ekis. Sorry if I said that wrong. Hardest world record? I guess whatever one has been standing the longest. I don't know which one it is, but it's got to be that one. How much protein should a 16-year-old eat? Eat your body weight in grams of protein. So if you weigh 150 pounds, eat 150 grams of protein, roughly. What are exercises can I do to help improve my backstroke? We actually answered this question in our last Q&A vlog. Check that out. All right, I've been doing this for about 37 minutes now. There's actually more questions than I anticipated, but thank you everyone. If you have, I'll stay on for like another 60 seconds. If there's one more question, maybe I'll answer it. What were the main strengthening exercises that Santo did to get his shoulder pain free? A lot of external rotation work. A lot of closed chain work. A lot of serratus work. And a lot of rhomboid work. What role does rest or recovery play in your training? That is the training. That's when you get better. So it's very important. We actually only train hard 3 days a week. The rest is all easy. All right. Thanks, guys. Again, if you guys want to check out the workouts our pros are doing, check out ASP Swim. It's on aquaticsp.com. Go to the ASP Swim. There's a free 2-week trial. So if you hate it, you can cancel it. No big deal. But yeah, check it out there. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you guys.